Evening and welcome once again to Gaming Under the Influence. I'm Mike here with Alex, coming to you guys from GreenDragonCVR in Woodbridge to talk about video games.
Oh yeah.
How are you today, man?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Same old. Once again, enjoying another banger this week. Another masterpiece, it feels like. It's been a whole year of masterpieces.
Absolutely, yeah.
I spent some time with Alan Wake, and though I'm not even close to finishing it, I think I've played enough to say, man, it's a revolutionary piece of fiction. I'm pretty blown away by how it shatters my expectations.
Yeah, very creative, I guess, right?
Yeah, I think so.
It's tough to put into words. I was gonna say almost on level with you were saying Death Stranding and something.
Yeah, I think it's close to as revolutionary as Death Stranding. If Death Stranding was willing to totally experiment with genre in a way that other people hadn't been willing to forego traditional gameplay loops and focus on something that people had until then deemed mostly walking simulation. I think this game is willing to experiment with multimedia, with themes and conventions that probably wouldn't play too well in other gameplay loops. And I watched a couple of interviews with the designers, including Lake and some of the other gameplay people, and they were saying that the problem to their estimation with the first game was how the loop clashed with the slower pace of the story and the themes of the game.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It was an action game. That's why I didn't really finish it or enjoy it that much, to be honest with you. I didn't like
fair enough.
Pew pew shining lights at guys and shooting them in this 10-year-old combat. It's terrible, right? But this is a survival horror game in its material element, in the first place. It's kind of like Resident Evil 2 remake. Plays very much like that. The controls are much like that. You have a map just like that where you cross out doors you can't enter with a red line. You look for keys here to access places you couldn't access before.
Yeah.
But that's pure mechanical description that doesn't even come close to capturing what these guys managed to express with that.
Actually going on. And if you've played Control, you might know what that is.
What kind of weird themes they play around with. Yeah, those are back in full force. This is very much in the Control universe, actually. They have a unified Remedy universe, this whole thing with places of power and altered world events, which this is what's going on in this game here, There's some otherworldliness bleeding into the world, They have those, I don't know if you guys remember the supernatural entities from Control, like the Board and the Hiss, and all of these things that come from this Jungian supernatural plane where archetypes exist and stuff like that. And Jessie can channel that with her powers. But that's the kind of thing that's happening to Alan Wake. There's an altered world event in this lake. There's some kind of presence there that trapped him in the first game. And now, 13 years later, which is actually the real amount of time that's passed.
Oh, really?
This FBI agent goes to this town of Bright Falls where Alan Wake is trapped under the lake to investigate a bunch of murders that have been taking place. Right. And the first thing, man, the game's opening is
it's
weird.
Big, it's good.
You literally the game starts with this fat naked guy, this with a hairy back, washing up on a beach, and you're just walking him through the woods, this fat naked guy. And then he's caught by some dudes who just mercilessly stab him to death and cut out his heart. And you're just watching this, you're like, wow.
What the heck is going on?
Up,
right away, you're in some kind of Kojima territory.
It's strange. No, that scene was super Kojima. That scene was a Death Stranding scene. Go check it out. This whole game is riffing on Death Stranding. Those guys know each other. It's not a coincidence, and then after that, you take over as this FBI agent who's gone to Bright Falls to investigate these murders, and she finds that there's pages of Alan Wake's manuscript appearing that describe her and the events of the murder.
Wow.
And before long, her and her partner, who's Sam Lake.
Sam Lake, the writer of the game. Remedy is awesome.
See what I mean? They have to admit that something supernatural is going on, and they go into this other dimension to save Alan Wake, and it instigates the whole plot of the game. But the thematic focus here, as with Control, I guess, is this differentiated reality, whereas there's just base physical stuff, but lying just underneath is this supernatural realm of archetypes and forms that influence day-to-day reality and can dangerously break through and cause nefarious things to happen, right? But the game, it's not just it's a game that depicts this and you're just doing a shooter thing for the rest of the time, right? Here, there's this multi-layered thematic built into the gameplay itself, I guess you could say. You start playing in the physical world and looking for clues and stuff, but you immediately have to go into this thing called the mind place, and the character literally says, she's like, this is my version of the mind palace technique, like where people visualize like imaginary spaces to store ideas and stuff like that. So you just at any time press the start button or the face button there on the controller, you go into the character's mind and you start arranging clues on this board,
So that's like the FBI boards where you're like pinning pictures and things and letters and whatever. And then is that like tied to the progression? You have to go back and forth between.
That's how you unlock progression. You find stuff in the world, and as you progress the case, then you can further the plot.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool and interesting, and like a different gameplay type thing that we don't really see often, right?
Yeah.
That,
instead of just like finding a key on the map to access the area, like in Resident Evil, you'll need to find something or talk to someone or do something in the world to attain a clue. Not just by finding it physically in the world. Sometimes it is an object, but often you talk to people or you see something happen and you get one that way too. Then you got to go into the character's mind and place that on the board in the appropriate place, and then it unlocks the way forward, whatever it might be. Yeah.
That sounds really sick.
And that's only when you're playing as this character, Saga.
Right.
You can also play as Alan Wake in certain sequences, and eventually you can switch between them at will. And Alan Wake has a writer's room instead. And instead of finding clues, he finds pieces of a narrative that he can use like to reshape reality and progress through the level that he's in. And stuff like that.
That is legit. Sounds like this generation, like Resident Evil 2, with like the split characters and like
it is like this.
Like,
it's so much like Resident Evil 2. It really is. It plays like it's exactly
amazing,
like the gameplay is ripped straight out of the recent Capcom games.
Yeah,
that's fine. I love that gameplay. I really like how they took that slower approach to gameplay. They were aware of the disproportion between the previous genre and their idea.
Sounds like it was a little bit wonky.
Yeah, and I love how they're willing to experiment with gameplay conventions in the same universe too. It's not a game like Control at all. It's not like that, right? It's not
true. And Control worked better being more of an action game.
Yeah, it was a great action game.
That was great game.
Great action
Control is a fantastic game, and Alan Wake sounds like equally a good game just on the survival horror side with a lot of the same weird
down,
fiction.
I think. Like it's not about the Bureau of Control or these giant cosmic events. It's about one guy and his own individual story and stuff like that. Though I guess you could argue there's cosmic consequences of what's going on. But in any case, this focus on different layers of reality and constantly jumping in and out of them. And it's not only that there's the mind place or the writer's room and then the physical world and then Alan Wake's other world there, the world of supernatural forms and stuff like that. There's also like literally live action. The character who's playing Alan Wake, the live action actor, like it just goes to long movie sequences of him, like on talk shows, just like stuff happening to him. It's so bizarre, constantly jumping through like
I love the weirdness,
layers of reality. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, and then at the end of each chapter, they have a song. It's like a pop or a rock song, like an indie song. Like an original song that they made for this game, supposed to capture the themes. And I really like, just like in Control, the persistent focus on differentiated reality, like I said before, on the metaphysical, like lurking just beyond the cusp of your sight and day-to-day life. And they lean into that heavily with this shifting between layers of reality, multimedia depictions of the characters and stuff. It's a revolutionary game. Yeah, it's very brave, and honestly, in some sense, it's kind of like show-offy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
In what way? Like
in how like it's just totally unafraid to do these preposterous things.
It's almost like they're trying to out Kojima. They're like, honestly, you're weird. Well, watch how weird we can get.
Like, we're gonna go in the mind place. And some parts just stretches credulity. Like your character has no idea how to get clues. This character, Saga, the FBI agent, so she can do this thing called profiling, where she sits down at the table and just thinks really hard and shit just pops into her head.
That's so funny. What the heck?
But it seems to be because like Alan Wake or the FBI agent whose heart was cut out or like speaking to her supernaturally. I'm not really sure what the ultimate suggestion is, but it does. There are like little Deus Ex Machina insertions that don't really make sense and stuff, and they don't care. They're like, that's not the point, right?
Yeah.
This is not the point.
No.
The point is how they're willing to experiment with these gameplay conventions and multimedia in order to make their concept clear, I think. And so far, to me, it really works. I love it a lot, man.
That's amazing.
I didn't stick to me. Remember, I started to play it. I was like, I don't really like this.
Yeah.
It wasn't fun. It was just jarring at first because I didn't understand. I thought you had to go find clues everywhere, like items in the world. And just playing like one day at 2 a.m, I was half asleep. Like, what do I do?
If you're not in the right mindset, sometimes that you just kind of.
It's not a passive game. It's a thinker. Yeah. You really have to be like, what's going on? Like, review your objective and then put it together in your head. Like, you're not following a marker on the map, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Which is it's even all the more awesome for that. Like, it's such an engaging thing, right? You have to really be focused and paying attention. It's
I do find though
it's a game, right? It needs to be played. Like,
for sure.
I love that.
I do find though that you don't get really into that kind of these kind of games. Like, it's not like playing a Souls like where you get in this flow state, where you're totally engaged and you play for 4 hours, or Valheim, right? Like, here I play for an hour 20, and I'm like, all right.
Yeah, and then because it becomes a lot to conceptually, right? Like,
it's bombarded with dialogue and this stuff. It's not
even just what caught me is the transition screens when you're walking from one dimension to another, and like just really intense flashes and things. Like, it's just like it's
I found it was the same with thing. It is for sure, but even other survival horror games like Resident Evil 8, it was only an 8-hour game, but it took me like a while to play because I played for like an hour at a time, a bit less.
It still takes you like a week or whatever.
It's 2 weeks. Like the loop is not the kind of thing that you, at least for me, these kind of games are not engaging at that level. They're conceptually so, but they don't bring about that animal.
Yeah, it's not even like an open world game where you can just jump in and just crush time doing, or something like a Valheim where you just annihilate.
You have tasks to complete, basic tasks. No, here it's very
not the same thing.
Yeah, it's very representational here. Like, the fiction is very much the point, not everything else, the stuff you're doing is almost in the way practically, it feels like. Right?
Yeah. That's why it's cool to see
very
them.
Conceptual and Kojima-esque in that sense. It's a cinemaphile's game. Is that how you say that? Cinemaphile?
I don't know.
Yeah. And it's a Kojima man's game too. Like, you mentioned you saw a scene like the beach. This naked guy running around on the beach. All this stuff is so Death Stranding.
It's out there, It's amazing.
I really like this though, man. I really like how all of these guys who are awesome game makers riff on each other's conventions.
Yeah,
they know each other. They're not afraid to.
No.
Zelda makes games like Souls. Souls makes games like Zelda.
Yeah.
Sam Lake and Kojima are like, whatever, man. Anyways, here's to that. I'm pleased. This has been a great year, man. We saw games from FromSoft, from Monolith and Nintendo with Tears of the Kingdom there, which I'm pretty fond of that game, actually. I hope to get back to it one day.
Yeah, same. Yeah. It's just there's too much going on. There's so many games, and like now I'm even playing little things like Star Ocean, which has been cool. The second story R, which found out there's a first story R, but because there's no physical copies, I never looked into it, right? But anyway, I'm playing the second one, which is cool. We can get into that another time.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Lots of good stuff. No matter what you like, there's shit out there.
Big studios drop games this year. Yeah. A lot of new studios too.
Yeah.
Varying degrees of success, like Lies of P, Wild Hearts, Atomic Heart, Hogwarts Legacy.
True. Yeah.
A lot of big new games. Varying degrees of success, but story for another day. Alan Wake's a revolutionary game, at least in terms of its themes and mechanics. How it conveys those themes through its mechanics, maybe is the best way to say that. And I think everybody should play it. It's a serious contender for Game of the Year.
Yeah,
I don't doubt that at an award show like the Game Awards, it could very well win, actually.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Just like Death Stranding was nominated,
Fair enough.
It's not a populist thing. It's not people voting democratically, right? It's like an auteurs convention, practically,
friggin' good artistic expression of a video game.
That's why usually, we'll probably see Baldur's Gate 3, I bet you. We'll see this one, I bet you. Yeah, we'll see Zelda.
Spider-Man?
For sure. Probably we'll see that.
Oh.
Probably we'll see that, yeah.
Yeah, probably.
And we'll probably see Armored Core up there, I think.
I don't know. I hope so. I definitely hope so.
I think so.
It should be.
Anyways, we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you guys very much for tuning in. Talk to you soon.
Oh, yeah.